whatever you're trying to pursue in your life, work, personal, just and again, it will sound cliche, but put effort into it, and know that failing is fine. You're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes, but life keeps going, and you can keep going. You control your destiny, and you can do whatever you want to do within your life, just as long as you become confident in yourself, work well with others. You can achieve all those goals.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we sit down with executive leaders to explore what leadership really means through the lens of their stories, their wins, their struggles, their vision, and their lessons along the way. I'm Ty Hammond, founder of One Mountain Leadership and creator of the True Leadership Approach, an awareness-based path that helps leaders shift their focus from what to do about their problems to how to grow from them. Whether you're just stepping into leadership or are well-seasoned and at the top of your game, your potential won't be realized following someone else's script, but you can draw insights from their stories and turn it into wisdom by putting it into practice in your own life. Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we explore the essence of leadership beyond tactics and performance by sitting down with executives to hear what matters most to them. I'm your host, Ty Hammond. Today's guest is Craig Pius. Craig is a sales leader and marketing technology consultant with a mission to transform how companies go to market. As vice president of sales at Activate, he helps B2B organizations understand and engage tech buyers with strategies that drive higher quality pipelines, stronger conversion rates, and measurable revenue growth. With a background spanning sales leadership, business operations, and technology consulting, Craig is known for designing thoughtful, purpose-built solutions that align customer needs with business outcomes. Customer-obsessed and results-driven, he thrives at the intersection of strategy, collaboration, and execution, helping organizations navigate change and unlock new opportunities for growth. It's a pleasure for me to have Craig on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Craig.
Thanks, Ty. Pleasure to be here as well. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So, I always start here. Every leader has a beginning. Of course, who we are as leaders at work and in life starts taking shape long before we even get into the workforce or advance to any executive position in leadership. I'm curious, who's someone from your early life or maybe an early experience that helped shape the kind of leader that you are today?
Yeah, I would say probably early on. It might sound a little bit cliche, but I'd probably have to go back to my father. Grew up in Brooklyn, and he was actually a CPA and a VP at a bank, but he decided to pursue an entrepreneurial route and open up bagel stores across the East Coast. So seeing his leadership ability to expand and almost kind of essentially franchise out some of these bagel stores along the way definitely piqued my interest early in leadership, segueing into sports, then through into my career as well. Yeah.
I love that. And what is it that you really feel like you picked up from obviously, he experienced some success, but what was it about the way that he led that you feel like you picked up?
I think that every person that you deal with along the way, you learn a little bit about how they operate, how they tick, and how to collaborate with those people. So everybody is different. And if you're going to be a leader of a group of people and build out an organization, you have to understand what motivates folks, how to help people feel good about themselves, how to coach them, help them grow, along with growing the business as well.
I love that. Yeah, I really hear, not sacrificing the people for the outcomes.
Correct.
And recognizing the value of the people within the business as well.
Yeah. Yep. I think the value and the outcome of the business comes from the people along the way. So it ties everything hand in hand, which is great.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, amazing to be picking up that from someone as essential as your father figure. I'm curious, of course, in this podcast, we're exploring the essence of leadership. You're already speaking to it to some degree, what I call true leadership. Of course, that means many different things to different people, but what does true leadership mean to you?
Great question. So I think true leadership is you have to figure out a way to lead a group of folks within your organization, or just lead in a way where people respect you, look up to you, want to come to you for advice. You don't want to lead out of fear, and you want to be able to have folks feel comfortable coming to you to learn and grow themselves, and kind of in a way almost attach themselves to you, where they're your go-to for a lot of advice and so forth.
What's been the way that you have gone about doing? I feel like it's one thing to say be someone that people respect. I'm curious, what's the way that you have gone about earning people's respect as a leader?
Yep, I can give you two big points. I think one is sticking to your word, and if you're gonna do something, set an example, then you have to do it, right? Walk that walk, and they'll do it for you as well. And I think a big part is truly listening to people, right? A lot of folks, when you're in a room together, there's always someone who likes to talk more than the other. If you're really able to listen and understand what people's feelings and thoughts are, and really understand what they're going through, and give the proper amount of either advice or a way to make them better and grow as a person, they really appreciate that in that standpoint.
Well, I really appreciate that. In my experience, that requires a level of attunement that requires no small amount of self-awareness, right?
Mhm.
Because otherwise we can get into the issue or the challenge where we're people's what they say is going on is not always what's going on. We have to read between the lines a little bit or feel into what's happening. So to me what you're saying is really indicative of what I would say true leadership, because it requires your own attunement to what's actually happening, not necessarily just what's being said.
Correct. Yeah, I think a lot of folks look at intelligence sometimes and IQ, but I think when it comes to leadership, EQ plays a big role. And it's really hard not to get too high and positive on when things are going really well. And if things are going poorly, getting negative and down on yourself, but being able to stay neutral and have that in a way, that poker face, but have feelings and emotions, but stay neutral throughout things to keep things level set, is a challenge amongst itself that good leaders have to, I think, learn over time.
Yeah, I really love that. It's that word equanimity, which I think is often sort of misunderstood. It doesn't mean like unaffected necessarily. We could still like experience emotion, and it's not like it's
Right.
I'm gray and humdrum about everything, but it potentially means that I don't get swept by the reactivity towards the what I'm wanting to happen or not wanting to happen, is a bit of what I'm hearing there.
Yes, exactly. Folks like to feel a sense of calm and that things will be situated, good or bad.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's one of the things for certain about true leadership, is that real sense of uh boy, everything else is blowing up, and yet here's the calm within the storm. I love
Correct.
that.
Yeah.
So, that I would just say that kind of leads me perfectly into my next question. I don't feel like that quality of presence, let's say, or that ability to stay calm within the storm, you know, we get there through tests, through challenges. Every leader, of course, as every human being, faces moments that test and shape them. Curious if you'd share about an experience that really challenged you and became a turning point in your own leadership journey.
Yeah, I think I can take this kind of on a little bit in a personal segue, and it kind of translates into work as well. I think understanding, after I got married, I have 3 kids, 3 girls. I think going through the first birth of my daughter, prior to it, it took my wife a bit to become pregnant. We had to go through IVF. And I think dealing with the challenge and the stress of that, and working my career, it's, you try to find that balance of not getting too low or too high, and it's almost like you're being tested from a personal level, because that can translate into how you're working, right? Folks will say, don't carry your personal life into to work. In today's day and age, it's even harder because a lot of us work hybrid or remote, and there are going to be times where what's going on in your personal life will come and bleed into your work. And if you kind of figure out a way to, okay, this is a little bit of a test here. Like, I have a ton of things going on. I can feel what I'm feeling personally, and digest it and work through it, but I can't let it get into work, and it kind of helps build a little bit of a stronger persistence through work. It's an interesting way of kind of building up those leadership skills as well, because now you have to deal with both the personal and the work-life balance.
Yeah, boy, I couldn't uh, agree with you more or disagree more that that it's actually let me say disagree with the idea that we should leave parts of ourselves at home. I actually don't think that even makes any logical sense because here we are. I'm at the center of my experience now. I do of course understand not bringing social things to your personal things to work and sort of laying it on coworkers and those things,
Exactly.
um, but realizing that who we are, the leader at the center of the experience, is with us in every single experience, I think is paramount. I'm curious, and thank you so much for sharing your story. What impact do you feel like that experience had on the leader that you are today? How do you see that coming through in the leader that you are?
Yeah, I think that type of experience really helped me deal with, specifically within my career. I'm been in technology sales for 17 years. I sold for about the first 11 or 12 as an IC, moved into a team lead, sales manager, director, now a VP level role. I think it really helps with understanding that persistence, effort, there are going to be those ups and downs. Being in technology sales, you deal with that, and that was the journey, at least that I experienced with my wife with IVF, the ups and downs and the webs and flows of feelings and emotions. It helps you build that skill set more in your work because you start to realize that a lot of those things and those emotions occur in work from different reasons, and it kind of helps really build that for you. And it's again, it's more tests and exercise that you look back on it, and it helps you build that character of leader that you become today moving forward.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's really ringing for me as the word capacity.
Yeah.
When we've all got our different definitions. When I think of the word capacity, I think about the capacity to simply be with what is happening without reacting to it.
Mhm.
And that as we grow our capacity to be with the challenges of life, whether it be at work or at home, we're growing that capacity in every aspect of our life.
Mhm.
That is what true capacity growth is. So I really love that. You've talked a little bit about, obviously just stating how you've gone up through the ranks of leadership. I'm curious to hear a little bit of, what do you feel like you most had to outgrow or let go of? What assumptions did you need to challenge in order to step into, let's say, the VP role?
Sure. I think for a long time, when you're specifically in a individual contributor or a sales role, doesn't even have to be, in technology sales. It could be mixture of what I'm doing now, media and tech, advertising, financial sales, whatever it is. When you're selling, you're kind of in a way you're collaborating with teams, but you're autonomous. You're kind of building your business internally, and you look at things. I don't want to say short term, but it could be month by month, quarter by quarter. When you move into leadership roles that are past front line into second line, you start to look at things on an annual basis, 2 3 year basis. You're looking at things from an organizational standpoint around like the P&L statement, not just those tactical things, but the larger strategic overview of the business in general, and changing that mindset from the day to day to longer and larger outputs is a different and an interesting transition. It takes some time to do that because you've trained your brain to do something a different way for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything in particular that has helped you with that? I mean, that is, I just want to say it with all of the leaders that I work with, it's identifying those old assumptions of the ways that we've always done stuff that's always worked. And a lot of time, we've heard the adage, what got you there won't get you there. I actually add on to that and I say, what got you here will keep you from getting there.
Yep.
And so I'm curious, what, if anything, you found has helped you with dropping those assumptions and gaining a larger perspective, so to speak.
Yeah. So I talk to a lot of folks who it's interesting now that as they've gotten more experience and progressed in their career and moved into these roles, maybe prior to me, or folks who I know in these roles, they say you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable and being okay with the change and doing things differently, because it doesn't mean that they're wrong. It's just not how you were used to doing them because the function of your job was very different prior. Now you're looking at things from a business standpoint, not just Craig, this is my individual contributor number standpoint. How do I get there? And there are things you have to think about that if you make a decision somehow, it might not just affect, the short term, but what is it going to look like in the long term? So you have to look at things from that lens. And again, I guess the biggest thing goes back is being comfortable to change, talking to folks who have been in that role, learning about, how they're doing things, what's working for them, what's not. And you'll start to realize that folks in your role have a lot of the same issues and things that work well for them as well.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. And it strikes me that when you're looking at like an individual contributor role, oftentimes the measure is a little bit more pass fail or right wrong, or
Mhm.
here's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. And boy, as you're saying, as you continue to progress to upper levels of leadership, it becomes so less clear than that.
Yes.
It's less, it requires grokking more complexity, more ambiguity, more uncertainty, and there's no such thing as the right solution or a wrong solution, or the right. And it becomes more about what is the best thing that we can do with the information that we have, which is such a major assumption blasting reality.
Yep. I agree. Yeah, it's like you said, it's a lot more black and white when you're an individual contributor in sales. You have a number, you have to go and get it, and there's some context to it. When you're in leadership, there's a lot of different things you're responsible. The number is just a part of it, right? There's a lot of other things you have to do in terms of process and tools and solutions and other data and other teams you have to talk with and go to market. There's just so many other things you need to do and perform. So getting used to that and that time management is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything you're speaking to right now, of course, we're talking about growth.
Mm.
And no amount of, to some extent, this is what sort of gets at the basis of, my perspective on leadership is no, you can't just necessarily learn the skills to do a VP position. It requires a capacity, right? It requires growth beyond what you were capable, of perceiving prior to that. So, of course, leadership is about growth. I'm thinking about your journey over the past few years. What's been the most valuable investment that you've made in yourself? Whether it's a coaching program, a community, another commitment. Essentially, what's helped you grow along the way?
Yeah, it's actually very funny you mentioned coaching. I think the biggest thing for me was I've seen therapists before for personal life, but I want to get more involved in the business aspect of coaching. So I actually spent a lot of time from the pandemic in 2020 throughout currently with a business coach. He's based in Sweden. He actually works with a lot of other folks in tech, some athletes as well. He funny you mentioned it because he did text me. He's in New York now, so I'm going to actually meet up with him in person in the next couple of days. But yeah, he was a pretty big proponent for me around how to help myself get centered, how to stay neutral, how to be balanced, and set goals for myself 1, 3, 5 years out. And like you said, in the beginning, you have to, feel like you're going to be in that role. And then how do you actually become that person in the role? And it's hard. A lot of times, perception is everything, but how do you actually deliver on that perception? And it takes time to learn that. But yeah, that's been a big help for me.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, coaching is absolutely invaluable. And boy, I don't think that I've ever been in contact with any leader that's gotten coaching that has felt like it has been invaluable. So that's fantastic that you're getting the support that you need there. Of course, leadership is about growth, all of the ways that we're looking, potentially what's holding us back. How do we grow into that? But then it's also about what we're shaping for tomorrow. So I'm curious, based on where you are at now, who you are as a leader today, what's your vision for your leadership, your legacy, or the impact that you want to have in the years ahead?
Yeah, great question. Kind of probably give you somewhat of a loaded answer. It's like at this point, I'll be turning 40 in April, and I've had goals for myself on like where I want to be from like a title standpoint, leadership role as a person. And I've always said to myself, I did want to at some point be a CRO at a tech company. So like that's like an actual goal of mine. But as like a leader, what do I want to be able to do and look back on and be proud of? I guess is a little bit different as well. And that's kind of where it's a little bit of a loaded question. I do really want to help shape folks in their careers, feel that I could be a mentor to people, help actual transform how organizations do go to market, how we actually do help our clients be client obsessed and client focused, and really have a product and look at products from a product market fit and make a change in how they use those tools and so forth. So yeah, it's there's definitely goals that I have, and it's definitely a little bit of a loaded question, but yeah, I'm happy to answer more on some of the notes I gave you.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'm be happy to allow you to expound on whatever of those pieces in particular that you feel curious a thread to expound a little bit on.
Yeah, I think one to stick with is mentorship. I think for a long time, one of those aha moments that's interesting is when, at least for me, I was a finance major. I worked at an intern at Morgan Stanley in 2008. Decided to leave after we had a little bit of the mortgage recession in '08. That's what brought me to tech. And I always remember having some really good frontline managers and colleagues that I would talk to, and they would help be a mentor to me. And I think now at this phase of my career, I start to see some of these younger folks or people coming into the workforce looking for a mentor, and it's interesting seeing those roles be reversed. And it's for me, it was really helpful and beneficial for me to progress in my career. So I think knowing that I can take some folks under my wing and really give guidance and help where they need be it's impactful for them. It makes them feel good, if feel a certain type of way, and it makes me feel that I'm actually making a difference in what I'm doing, other than just moving the needle from a revenue standpoint.
I love that. And,
Yeah.
certainly fits into how I think about true leadership. Of course, the reality that every single choice that we make in our lives does have an impact and ripples out
Mhm.
in ways that we are aware and unaware of. And, just commending the extent to that you are noticing, caring about, and attending to that impact that you have, especially, of course, as you rise up through the ranks of leadership and have increased impact on the folks whose lives you touch. You know.
Yeah.
Um, so next piece is a little bit of, in terms of growing into that, that growing edge, getting to that place of increased influence and improve impact. Of course, true leadership is always evolving. Um, Given that vision for the future, what's your growing edge right now? In what ways are you being stretched or tested in your leadership or in life today?
I would say probably the biggest thing how I'm being stretched within leadership in life probably goes back again to work life balance, right? Raising three kids in a way you're trying to be a protector and a leader for them. My wife, she works full time as well. So balancing the work life balance there, leading a team. So there's a lot of folks I feel like, and it's a way that rely on you for things when you are into these leadership roles, right? Because they essentially you support them. I don't like to use the word that they report to me or I'm their boss. I support them. So
Mm.
you do feel a sense of, I don't want to say the word, I guess you can say stress and sometimes anxiety, where you want to achieve things for this team. They're relying on you to get to a certain place. And I see it with my children. I see it with the folks at work that I support. So I think those are some of the challenges that you deal with along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Boy, I really am getting this sense, and I love this because, as we had said before, I'm such a strong proponent that no matter where you go, there you are, right? That Craig is the one that's there at home. He's the one that's there, at work, and really seeing the extent to which you are allowing all of life's experiences to grow you in every capacity in life. Uh, to me, that is right at the essence of true leadership there. So really acknowledging that. And certainly not only your employees, but also your children and your family will benefit from that, I'm sure. So,
Yeah. Thank you.
and also just mad respect to you. I've got two. So any additional child on top of that, I just know it's not kid plus kid, it's kid times kid. It's like exponential kid there. So
Yeah, don't ever let anyone tell you that going from 2 to 3 is not a big difference. It definitely is. It requires a completely new car situation, and you're outnumbered, you go from playing, I guess you could say, if you're going to relate it to sports, man-to-man defense to zone. And you're outnumbered, and it is challenging for sure. That is the
Right
case.
on. Just because I'm curious, I do find so many corollaries between parenting and leadership myself. I'm curious. This is a little off script here, but any ways that you feel like parenting uh, i- improves or influences leadership, or vice versa?
I do. I think you learn from parenting a lot of things around yourself when it comes to explaining things to people in a different way, the listening, which I alluded to earlier, patience, seeing things from different viewpoints. There's a lot of things that tie into building yourself, your leadership, your character as a leader with parenting versus your workplace. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. No, my sentiments exactly. I find that as well. So this last question is a little bit more of an invitation. You have the time and the space here to offer our listeners whatever it is that's most in your mind and your heart to share right now. Anything at all. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing is whatever you're trying to pursue in your life, work, personal, just and again, it will sound cliche, but put effort into it and know that failing is fine. You're going to fail, you're going to make mistakes, but life keeps going, and you can keep going. You control your destiny, and you can do whatever you want to do within your life, just as long as you become confident in yourself, work well with others. You can achieve all those goals.
Fantastic, Greg. Well, I appreciate so much the wisdom that you've shared here today. I've really gotten so much out of it. I'm sure that whoever listens in here equally is going to benefit from what you've had to share as well today. Thank you so much for being on the True Leadership Podcast.
Thanks, Ty. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's it for this episode of the True Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by One Mountain Leadership, where we help leaders grow the capacity, confidence, and presence of true leadership through the True Leadership Approach. To learn more about the approach, our offerings, our community, and how we can help you realize your potential in both leadership and in life, visit us at onemountainleadership.com.